Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We are going to get started. We want to respect everyone's time, and it's 7 o'clock, 7:01 now by my computer. And this was as far as we could stretch the podium, so I am staring into the light a little bit, but I trust there's an audience out there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Fiala. I'm a principal planner at the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. I'm very excited to be with you this evening to talk about the Milford Comprehensive Plan. We have a full team out with us, and just to, as a spoiler this evening, we're actually here to listen to you. So if you're here mostly to listen, we respect that. We do have some listening you can do, but we really will later invite you to these tables and to engage with us in a smaller group discussion. And that's what the focus of tonight is, with our staff guiding that conversation. But to get us started, we'd love to share with you what this comprehensive plan is about and what the meeting is about this evening. So our agenda, we're going to do a brief round of introductions. We'll talk about what the comprehensive plan is for the town of Milford and what we'll be covering in this process. We'll also provide a snapshot of Milford today, which hopefully will be interesting to you all, maybe provide some fun facts about the town, which you may not know, and give you a look into the type of analysis that we're doing in this work and the type of data that we're looking at. But then really, we're trying to hold much of our time for those small group discussions, so that's what the focus will be, and that's why we have all the materials arranged at these tables for us this evening. So this is the first town and community meeting of this process. We're very happy to be with you tonight. We're very happy that you took time out of this lovely, beautiful spring evening to join us and talk with us this evening. The focus of our meeting really is to introduce the comprehensive plan to you all, help you understand what this is about. It's been a little bit of time since the town has done one, and we want to make sure that it's familiar to you all. And hopefully, if this is something that interests you and excites you enough to come to the meeting, you'll be happy to maybe spread word to your neighbors and let people know that this process is occurring. We also want to focus on identifying challenges to address tonight. Our team is really focused on working with you all over the next year or so on this process. Tonight, you can go a long ways by helping us focus our efforts on what's important for us to look at, what would help you move Milford towards the place you want it to be in the future in the most effective way. And we want to gather your feedback on a shared vision for what the town could be in its best iteration over the next 10 years. We do have, in addition to the small group discussions, we have some interactive in-meeting polling that we'll be doing as well through cell phones or on paper. And so just be ready for that too, that there'll be a moment when we ask you to take your phone out. So in terms of beyond myself, who I've introduced, we do have a group of Milford residents and volunteers, the town leadership, who are guiding this planning process. They've been put together as an ad hoc comprehensive plan committee. And those include the names you see on the screen, both from the planning board, the select board, the finance committee, the conservation commission, the town administrator, and all that is guided as well by the town planner, Larry Duncan. If you are on, I know that we have some ad hoc committee members present with us. If you're on the ad hoc committee, could you maybe just raise your hand, give a wave, or stand briefly? Yes, we've got some few. Thank you. It's hard for me to see. Great. So thank you all for joining us and taking time. And thank you for taking the time to help guide us in this process. We're meeting with the Ad Hoc Comprehensive Planning Committee every month in preceding the planning board meetings. So those are also public meetings that any of you are welcome to join us in on. We're trying to meet either the first Tuesday or the third Tuesday along with those planning board meetings in about an hour session each month to help connect with them and guide this process as we go. There should be, if you look around, there should be some familiar faces in the room compared to this slide. We have a full team, a full complement of planners from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. If you don't know about MAPC, we are the regional planning agency of the greater Boston area. We provide planning services with our professional planning staff to the 101 cities and towns around the greater Boston area. Milford is right on that western edge. Typically, it's kind of the arc of 495 that defines the greater Boston region. That's within our area that we work with. The team members that you see on the screen are planners in a variety of disciplines that really make up all of the comprehensive topics that are included and needed in a comprehensive planning process. So you see them there on the screen. Maybe if you could all give a wave too. We've tried to distribute ourselves around tables, and we'll leave it to introducing themselves amongst the small groups when we get to that point, but I'm not trying to diminish their presence, but they will introduce themselves, and we'll have time to do that in a moment. But we have a very solid team that's working with us behind the scenes and in front of us all this evening. So in addition to coming up with content for this planning process, one of our goals and intentions is to build stronger connections in the community as well. And how we do that is through meetings like this, but also showing up at meetings that are being held in the community as well. Our team is doing that. What we'd like to start with this evening, just to get the muscles working for having some discussion together in this space, we'd like to do just a very brief networking exercise. You don't have to introduce yourself to everyone, but if you could turn to someone who maybe you didn't come to the meeting with, or someone who you might not know, and just introduce yourself, your name, where you live in Milford, and what you might hope to see out of this process. And just take a couple minutes to do that.
I saw you.
At least you didn't say to get away from the neighborhood, because you know.
My name's Stan. Okay. What's that?
I hate to cut off that energy. It's great to see that there won't be much problem getting you all to talk this evening. So thank you for that. You will get plenty of time to talk, I promise. But just thank you for making those introductions and giving such a warm welcome to your neighbors and fellow Milford residents. So another way that we want to gather some information from you this evening, as I mentioned, is through your cell phone. So if you do have a phone, you can pull it out now. The fun thing, I encourage you to do it via phone. The fun thing about the phone is that you will have your answers show up on the large screen, which is just fun to see who's in the room with us. All right, so you'll get a chance, you'll see these instructions in a moment as well. The first set of questions, we're going to do this twice this evening, once now and once towards the end of the meeting. The first set of questions is just getting a feel for who's in the room with us. We've talked about who we are, who the ad hoc committee is, and who's in the room from our perspective. But this is more about who's in the room from the residents that have joined us. So we have 5 questions for that. So this is, you see the instructions at the top of the screen if you haven't been able to do it yet. So if you have lived in Milford, how long have you lived in Milford by years? If you've lived in Milford for 1 to 5 years, you would text A as your response. 6 to 10 years, you would text B as your response. 11 to 20 years, you would text C, and so on. And so we see those responses coming back now. You just only have to text the letter once. All right, I'm going to keep us moving.
What's your answer?
It does look like the most responses so far, 21 to 40 years. So you should all congratulate yourselves on that longevity in the community. It's amazing. We also have some newcomers comparatively, but also some people who have been here longer, a few that work in Milford as well. And a nice mix between those categories of newer residents and longer term residents. So thank you for that. The next category is what is your age? And these are anonymous, so we can all, we don't have to worry about, so you do the letter which corresponds with the range. So under 18 would be A, 18 to 24 would be B, 25 to 34 would be C, 35 to 49 would be D. And just an insight about how we'll be using this data, we will compare this data to townwide demographics just to see who's coming into these rooms and spaces and discussing with us. And then as we get further along in this process, we'll look at the data compiled and try to seek out parts of the population compared to the demographics that have not been present. So it looks like 50 to 64 is our leading category here. A winner, bingo on that one. Followed by 35 to 49, but also a good range. And it's great to see some under 18, which is always a tougher audience for us to engage in a process like this. All right, how would you describe your gender identity? Man, non-binary, transgender, woman, or prefer not to answer? Looks like we have a little more women in the audience than men. Just let that continue for a moment. And just a note in this quiet moment, if you are filling out the paper form, just make sure that we get at the end of the meeting and we'll add it in with these responses as well. Okay, so it looks like 56% women, 44% men. And how do you identify your race and ethnicity? And in this case, unfortunately, because of the polling software, we can only let you choose one, but of course you might identify in multiple ways on this question. So if you identify as Asian, that would be A, Black or African American, B, Hispanic or Latino, C, multiracial, D, other, E, F, white, and G, if you prefer not to answer. Okay, predominantly self-identifying as a white audience, with some self-identifying as Black or African American or other. So it's good to see a little bit of diversity in the room. And this is the last question in this initial introductory series. What is your household income? Oops, sorry, too fast. What is your household income? And A is under 25,000. B, 25 to 34,999. C to 35,000 to almost 50,000. D, 50 to 75. E, 75 to almost 100,000. F, 100,000 to 150,000. G, 150 to almost 200,000. And H, 200,000 or more.
200,000 or more.
Okay, looks like 200,000 or more is the largest in the room at 31%, followed by 23% between 75 and almost 100,000. So a good income range, potentially not as representative of the lower income households in the town, which we'll have some information about in a moment. All right, so now we just want to give a brief overview. Thank you for that, for giving us that introductory information. And keep your phones handy for towards the end of the meeting. But it is helpful for us to know who's in the room. I want to give a level-setting foundation for us all in the comprehensive plan, just about what this is, and set that foundation for our conversations tonight. So a comprehensive plan, as the name suggests, is comprehensive in the geography that we're looking at. We're looking at the entire town, all corners of the town. We are focused in a way where you tell us to focus, but we're also, of course, focused in those parts of the town which are more developed, have the infrastructure or the potential for change or transformation in the future. So that includes a focus on areas like the downtown, for example. There are a variety of planned topics, also comprehensive in nature, but more comprehensive, I would say, from a planner's mindset. This might not be the set of topics the way that you think about a town, for example, but these are topics as planners typically frame them, and we'll try to unpack some of the language which might be foreign on this slide. The first is community engagement. So these planning processes start with the community. We're trying to learn from you all what is important and where we should be focused. Through that community engagement, we will first and foremost be establishing a vision for the town. Where should the town be headed? What's that arc between now and the 10-year time horizon that this plan is looking at? Where we should be going and where you'd like to see change or transformation occur. Land use is as it describes the uses of land. Those residential single-family homes are an example of land use. Mixed-use downtown buildings or historic structures. The larger format retail and commercial, that's near 495, all of those are examples of variation of land use. And there's all kinds, with Milford being a regional center of land use and sort of conditions for us to consider. And that relates directly to zoning as a topic, the way that land is regulated in the town. We're thinking about downtown specifically. That was highlighted as one of our initial scope items, and we have a focus knowing that downtown is very important to the community. Land use and downtown, of course, both relate to economic development in the town, the jobs, the taxes, the tax base, the commercial base, how revenue is generated in the town and for the town. Housing is obvious, of course. We all need places to live. Milford is no different, and you all live here, of course. There's a variety of housing types, and we'll be talking about those in a little more detail in the presentation in a moment. But there are predominantly single-family homes, but there's a variety of other housing typologies in the town as well. Transportation includes all the ways that you might get around in the town, both driving, transit that's available, walking, biking, etc., and the connections that occur between everything. Cultural and historical resources, we're looking at the amenities of the town, the historic assets, and things that have been deemed important to the town, but also the cultural amenities and the arts and bringing together community around events and creativity. The natural environment open space is both the recreation spaces, the open spaces of the town, but also those that control for water quality, stormwater, and the like as we weave the natural environment in with development in the town and think about what areas of the town should be conserved and preserved. And then community facilities and services rounds out with all of the facilities and services that the town provides, both through buildings and through the services through the departments and staff. All of that gets organized in a meaningful way through this planning process where we think about interconnections between these topics, all flowing from the central feature of a vision statement with some values and goals that we will begin defining with you all this evening. And then that flows out to goals for each of these topic areas, and then ultimately to strategies and actions that will help the town implement this vision that we put forward in this plan. And again, that's over a 10-year time horizon. We'll be thinking about things that can happen in the short term, in the midterm, and the long term over that time. If you think about this sequence and the process that we're initiating with you all this evening, it correlates pretty closely with the seasons that are in front of us. So we're today in the spring, we've been starting up the process, doing a lot of analysis back at our office. We are looking at together with you in the near future, starting tonight, about visioning and what the values of the town are and where to set that foundation for this plan. As we shift over the summer and get that vision solidified, we'll be shifting in the fall to goals. So thinking about goals for each of those topics I just went through and highlighted. As we shift to the winter, we'll be looking at detailing those goals with strategies underneath them and actions that can further make implementation a reality. And then as we move to the spring of next year, we'll be compiling all of that into a planned document that hopefully provides all the information in a useful, accessible manner. So that's the overview of the plan itself and what this content is. We wanted to give a brief snapshot. Some of the conversation we'll be having is within these topics that I just outlined. We want to give you a few more details about what's in those topics. And to kick us off, my colleague Courtney Lewis is going to walk us through some of that.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Lewis. I'm very happy to be here this evening. Milford has a long history of being a landing pad for immigrants, and in order to ensure that This process is equitable and inclusive. We have done extensive research on key demographics within the community. Josh walked you through a series of questions, polling questions, and we're gathering that information so that we can strategize on who we're not reaching. Some interesting things that we found out about Milford is 30% of residents are people of color, 29% are under the age of 25, 28% of Milford residents are living with a disability, 31% are cost burden, and that means that a household is using more than 30% of their income on housing, and 35% of Milford residents speak a language other than English. We're very happy to have our interpreters here this evening to be able to allow everyone from the community to be able to engage in this process. As Josh mentioned, this map shows the town's land use, and it is just what it sounds like, the use of land for a particular parcel. Zoning regulates and specifies land uses and as well as development. The town's dominant land use is residential, which includes the yellow areas on this map. The lighter yellow areas are single-family detached dwellings. A lot of the town's commercial areas are along the major corridors, including the 495 interstate, the Main Street corridor in the heart of downtown, and Route 140, which lies to the west of town. So this map shows the boundary of the downtown area, and throughout the process, we're going to make a concerted effort to really look at improving this area. The town has a very vibrant downtown with a good mix of business types. The entire team came up for a town tour back in February. We got a chance to tour the downtown as well as have a nice meal, a nice lunch. We were really pleased to see the interesting mix that includes institutional anchors like Town Hall, several parks and squares, as well as the town library and the youth commission, the youth center. As I mentioned, the downtown has a good mix of businesses that range from retail, that include categories such as retail, professional services, which are things like haircut, barbershops and nail salons, public and institutional uses, medical services, personal care, and automotive services. Camille, who is leading the economic development section of the comprehensive plan, did a walking tour and looked at the number of businesses and compared that against the number of vacancies in the downtown area. The town is an employment center and has nearly 17 17,573 jobs as of 2021. As I mentioned, this map shows some of the town's largest employers and the distribution of some of those jobs across the town, with the darker purple circles representing companies that have employees that range from 600 to 1,000. What we also found throughout our initial research is that a majority of Milford residents travel outside of the town for employment. 2,226 residents live and work in Milford, and 15,000 employees work in Milford but live elsewhere. Some of the largest employers include the medical center, Milford Public Schools, and sectors of the economy that also relate to medical services.
Okay, I'm gonna speed us up a little bit so we can get to our conversations together. But in terms of housing, you see on the map here, this is density of housing, so housing with more than one unit. You see in the color tones here. So these are properties that have 2 or more units, and you see upwards, some of them hundreds of units. Those are spread around town. The housing authority properties, Milford Housing Authorities, are highlighted in blue. You see those are mostly concentrated toward the downtown center. The housing unit and sort of characteristics are interesting in Milford. So a third have children in terms of households, a third are retirees, a third are renters living in a condo or an apartment. In terms of the housing stock itself, only 9% or so have been built out of the housing stock in the past 2 decades. So much of the housing stock was built previously, with the majority built from between 1940 and 1999. In terms of household income, what was reflected in our in-meeting poll is on the higher side of the housing income in the town. So the median household income is $89,600. That means that there's a fair amount of housing affordability issues that are occurring. 4,405 Milford households are income eligible for affordable housing. That's more households than there is housing available at that level. You can see, even if you take the area median income, AMI it's called, and that's one of the statistics which is used in affordable housing. So you often hear 80% of AMI, for example, is kind of a phrase. That just means 80% of that area median income. That area median income is $149,400. So 80% of that still does not bring it down to the median income, median household income in Milford. So it's just there are a few stats here that I'm not going to cover, but they all point to affordability issues in the town. In terms of transportation, what you see on the screen are some of the non-auto networks in the town. So you have the Rapid Transit Authority network that moves and circulates primarily through and around downtown. You also have bicycle trails which come into downtown that also lead north and west up to Holliston and other places. And then you see some of the streets which are highlighted here with sidewalks, at least on one side of the street, which isn't entirely fully covering the town, but you can see that concentration build up as you move toward downtown. Nonetheless, with those non-auto assets, the majority of people are still commuting by driving alone, 72%. Only 2.7% are using walking, biking, or public transit as their primary mode of commuting. That leads to what we've already heard in our interviews and conversations so far, traffic congestion and parking management issues, particularly in downtown and the corridors that lead into downtown as well. The good news for downtown is compact and walkable. The Upper Charles Trail is a community asset that does connect into downtown, but other areas lack is similar bicycle amenities. In terms of cultural and historical resources, you see on the screen the clusters of areas that have been surveyed in the past in some National Register historic districts, as well as local districts and local inventory that has occurred. Predominantly, you see those dots. The concentration of those dots is very strong in the downtown area, but you see other concentration of those as well around other parts of the town. Milford's past and its story is a familiar one in the greater Boston area, where it's a transition from an agricultural town to a manufacturing industrial town, more to its present day. And along those changes, a variety of immigrant populations come to sort of meet the needs of those transitions, and that those immigrant populations continue in Milford today. So that's a rich part of the culture and history of the town. And there's a wealth of arts and culture activity occurring in the town as well. And that includes spaces like the one we're in, where the symphony plays, and other arts activities as well, public art initiatives, and other ways that culture is seen throughout the community, and that's an area where we see potential future for growth. I'll hand it back to Courtney to wrap up last two topics, and then we'll get into the conversations.
The town has a significant number of natural resources. This includes protected open space, as well as areas that provide recreational opportunities to residents, which add to quality of life. The town itself was founded and grew and developed based on certain natural features like the Charles River and Mill River, and also gets its name from the mills that were located along those water features. The town's rail trail has been a big hit. In terms of acreage, the town has 1,457 acres of open space, which equals about 15% of the town's total land area. Of that 15%, 8.8% of open space is publicly owned, meaning it's owned by the municipality or the state, and 6.4% is privately owned. There are different levels of preservation and protection for certain open spaces that range from none to limited to protected in perpetuity. As I mentioned, the town has invested in a number of its parks and open spaces, including the renovation of Town Park, the Upper Charles Rail Trail, and Green Infrastructure Project, which works on some of the issues with stormwater runoff and non-point pollution. In terms of community services and facilities, this includes not only the physical structures like the building that we are in, but also the services that are provided, as well as the staffing and personnel. This organization chart provides a framework for showing how the town is organized, and includes departments, a number of departments, boards, and commissions. We are about to head into our small group discussions, but before we do, I just wanted to go over a few things. The initial topic and overview will be looking at challenges, and then we'll shift and look at a prompt that asks you to list your priorities for the town and your vision for the future of Milford. And now we'll hand it over to your facilitator, who should be at your table, and will walk you through some of the exercises and prompts.
Let's give it a second just in case anyone else wants to come, and I think folks will be joining now. Looks like we got maybe 3 more seats if just a couple.